Welcome to West Coast Women Rising. I'm Jeja Flazanes, your host today, and today I have with me Galit Reuben. I'm excited to learn more about you. I think we have some similar things that we do in the world. Welcome to the show, Galit.
Thank you, JJ. Yes, helping as many people as we can, mostly women.
Definitely. Why don't you tell us a little bit first about your business, and then I want to go back to sort of how you got there.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, my main business is coaching and healing using energy, and it's called I Am Superconscious. My main thing I do is a container that's a weekly group that people just join live or replay via Zoom, online, and it's a container that holds them to lifestyle, but also reaching their goals as fast as possible. But there's different entry points. I just launched an app that is just a 5 minute a day container. So, and then we can go deeper, one-on-ones and packages, etc. So that's my main thing. I am super conscious weekly group.
Okay, great. And is it your first business?
I ran a nonprofit in the past, so I'm entrepreneurial, but is it my first business by myself? Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been doing it?
This business, 5 years on my own. Yeah. Before that,
Great.
yeah, it was
And let's talk about the origin story that got you here. So what's the path that got you to I am super conscious and working for yourself, helping people to attract more?
Thanks. Well, I love shortcuts and hacks. I'm always looking for something that really works. A friend of mine recently said there is no silver bullet, and not one thing does everything. And I'm like, I'm going to challenge that. I think that I have that silver bullet. And what got me here is searching for a silver bullet that worked for me. I did, probably like you, countless of therapies because I came from a broken home. I was an abused child. I blamed everything on my father. So I was living life from a victim lens. Being a victim lens really helped me not take responsibility for anything. It was never my fault. It was the circumstance. It was my past. It was that I didn't have the same advantages or privileges, etc. That's how I lived my life. So if I failed, I had that wonderful thing to blame. Oh, poor victim me. So life didn't feel good. I ran a nonprofit that I founded for almost 20 years. It was called Dogs Without Borders. It's still thriving actually in LA, but I stepped down as director and I worked really hard. I had a budget. I raised about $500,000 a year, and I saved like 7,000 dogs. I mean, it was hard work, but I always believed in energy work. I actually grew up with it. So I really, my father, I always say, he was the most unspiritual, spiritual person you'll ever meet. He's gone now, but he introduced me to energy work. He went to healers, alternative doctors, Ayurvedic, and all that growing up. Psychics, consulted with psychics about so much. So I knew that it was just a part of life. I didn't realize that it was odd or different at the time. It's just how I was raised. So I always knew and believed that there's something there. I just didn't pick it up till later in life. About 2008, I started doing my own energy work, my own energy healing. I was like proud that I could do something that my father would be proud of, ironically. But I realize now it was him that was placed in my life, or I chose him. Let's just stop being victim. I chose him to be my father and for him to light the path for me.
So it's 2008 and you start your own energy healing. And yeah, I believe we choose our partner. Your family chose, you all chose each other. We all chose each other. It's all mapped out.
Yeah.
There's the sacred contracts of our lives before we incarnate in this physical body. I think most people forget that when they come here. And whether, if you're listening to this, you believe that or not, let me just say that it's a better choice of how to think about things versus the other side, which is being a victim. When you're in victim, you can't do anything about anything because you're a victim. You can't do anything. It's not, things just happen.
You're powerless.
You're powerless, you have no responsibility. And from that position, while it may feel good in the red hot second, you're blaming somebody else, it doesn't ever last and it never makes you happier or better. So from there, so in 2008, you started doing your own energy healing. And, and I know you said you've been doing this business for 5 years. So it puts us at 2021. So what happened between 2008 and 2021 to get us here?
I was a secret healer. Let's just put it that way. I didn't really go and make it a business. But I did do it on my foster dogs and, I used it. I used it in my life, but not on the outside and not in the open. I used it in my family, my son, etc. Then something happened. It was actually 2 months before the pandemic, like where, and I would be involved in like other healing modalities as a participant and go to learn like intuition classes and courses and get involved just as a hobby. So I was training myself. I didn't know for what. I was just enjoying the learning and being involved, Chinese herbs and health and all sorts of courses just for my own expansion. It would lead to something I didn't know, but I was called. And then I was called to this webinar by this man. His name was Christopher Duncan. And he performed this superconscious work. It was my first time of understanding superconscious. It is your higher self, your higher mind. We are all connected through the field, right? So he performed this sample, this experience. And my first one, I remember I was in my car driving and listening to what I had signed up for. And then he was going to do a session. So he said it's a closed eye process, but you listen passively, but it's still closed eyes. And here I am in Simi Valley, so I had to pull over. And I'm in front of a school or near some kind of school thing. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and he performs this thing called Recode. Recodes your brain. So I didn't know what to expect, but he's just saying all these instructions, these codes. My arms start going like this. Here I am. People are walking by my car. I'm sitting with my eyes closed and my arms are just floating in midair. And I was like, what is going on? And afterwards I felt something. I wasn't sure what I felt, but I felt better because I would wake up in overwhelm and stress every single day. I was a type A personality. I was just go, 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 trying to prove my worth. And I learned how we have these core wounds that we just believe that we are not worthy enough, and they're running in the unconscious patterns and identities and all that. That's when that world opened up, where I was that person that was trying to resolve myself my entire life and realized that it was a program running in patterns. And that no one else has responded, that their hands were floating all over the place, it was just me. And so I was intrigued. Of course, I signed up for yet another course. This time it was different. Everything changed in my life. 2 months later, I doubled my income. 14 months later, I tripled it. I stopped waking up in dread and overwhelm. I started reacting very differently to my partner. I would just, stand up for myself. And he's a great guy, but we are all living our patterns. So I would say something and then I'm like, who just said that? Was that me? Because I was used to speaking as the little girl of my father, who was always kept small. So something really, really shifted. I got my certification and then I was asked by my mentor to come and work for him and coach thousands of clients one-on-one and in groups. So I did that for almost 5 years. And I got so much experience. I mean, I saw anything and everything, and I worked with so many different types of people from all age groups. Not kids, but it was just such an immersion. Let's just put it that way. So I started helping others and seeing their results. It was just massive. And I wanted to continue learning. I did some more quantum healing, and suddenly in a meditation, I was introduced to, I wanted to do something with frequencies. Hence, frequencies. I didn't know anything about frequencies. I just knew I had to have something with frequencies, meditations. I wanted to do a meditation app, actually. And then was like, binaural beats, what do I do? Something. And then, of course, how the algorithm worked, I saw an ad about frequencies. So I got in a unit. I started playing around with it with my clients. People were like, wow, I saw colors. It deepens the work. Everything shifted even more, faster. And in a meditation I saw the founder of the coils in my meditation, David Wong, Chinese guy, inventor, brilliant guy, Master Wong. So somehow we connected. We had a meeting and he goes, why are you here? I said, well, I saw you in a meditation. He goes, oh yeah, I get that a lot. So one thing leads to another. So now I coach there as well as a top coach. And we combine forces with his frequency and my coaching because they go together so well. And I think by next week, my app will be launched, 5-minute mantras. And it doesn't matter. I know you're asking about my journey and how I got to here and there. Of course, I love talking about what it does, not so much about what I do or how I
Right, but
got here.
everyone, like you mentioned, you grew up with your dad introducing you to sort of alternative medicine, frequency healers, Ayurvedic medicine, which for a lot of people, maybe in this community, in the Ventura County businesswomen and people who listen to this podcast with Coast Women Rising, we're aware of those kinds of things, but in different parts of the world, that is foreign and no one has any idea. So to get to the place where you're working as a coach to help people with these things has a story to it because we don't, we have to go through our own personal stuff in order to say, I want to share it. In fact, I was talking with a client of mine yesterday, and her brother has been struggling for a long time, and she's been wanting him to work with me. And we met, and one of the things that, you know, we talked about was kind of his journey to get him where he is. And I said, I think you're going through what you're going through so that after you heal it, you can help other people do it, right? This is not a mistake. This is not, well, it may feel really bad for you right now and it's frustrating and you're right. But there are tools. And once you learn those, because the situation he is in is very specific, and most men in that situation aren't going to listen to someone like me. And they're not going to listen to someone like you necessarily, because it depends on their, like, some people are very much like, if you haven't walked the exact same path that I've walked, I do not trust that you understand what I'm going through. And so that's why there is someone for everyone, because a lot of us need to hear it packaged in or resonance in a certain way in order for us to hear it. And it doesn't matter if it's told you 20 times, that happens all the time. I'll tell some clients something, and then the minute someone else says it in a different way, same exact thing. And that's why I started my podcast in the first place, was to help heal my marriage and to save my marriage, which wasn't supposed to be saved, but it helped me. It was the catalyst to get going. And it was the catalyst. And the things that I did want to intend to do with it did work. I wanted someone to say what I was saying so he would hear it from someone else because I knew he couldn't hear it from me. Right. So that's why I asked you about the story, because the origin story of how you got to be doing, I mean, you mentioned core wounds, and for me, that's what I think my specialty is rewiring core wound patterns and everything that goes into that. But I wouldn't have learned it without going through a divorce. Like, I wouldn't have been introduced to the core wound work without sitting in the therapy that had me lay out my entire childhood and understand and extract from that the patterns and the beliefs that became because of that, right? I did not expect to be where I am today. This is not what I saw myself doing 20, 30 years ago. But the fact that I am is because it built on, let's say, a zone of genius that comes from life experience. So your life experience has caused you to have a zone of genius that is very specific to how some people need you to show up for them to hear it and to get the gifts that you have. So I just wanted to connect any other dots
Yeah.
that someone else could relate to, that they've been through. Because sometimes when you hear that someone else has gone through whatever you've gone through and how similar or different it may be, and they can put themselves in your story, in your shoes, they also then have hope for they can also get to where you've gotten.
Yeah, brilliant. And when you say that, it really reminds me of the true places I've been of how I realized what self-sabotage was. I knew that self-sabotage existed. I didn't realize how I had it. And so as I said, I'm entrepreneurial and a self-starter. I was a great starter, but never a completer. Completion, start, start, start. I would always sabotage myself before I would complete. And I was literally starting another project when this came up. This opportunity came up. And my husband asked me a funny question. He goes, well, how do you know that this one will work compared to all your other opportunities? And I said, oh, this one's different. This one's the right one. But deep down, I was like, oh, this is what sabotage looks like. And I've got it. And what do I do about it? And that's when that opportunity came, because sabotage is just us getting in our own way, right? And so that was one of my biggest strengths and genius, I believe, because I had sabotage so bad. That's one thing. And then I started working with women, mostly women, men and women, but mostly women who had that sabotage, who wanted to get out of their own way. And that's great. And I was working with people like that for a while. And what I realized is not everybody showed up. So I showed up. I'm someone that shows up. So I up my stakes. And I will not work with you if you're not willing to show up. If you're not a doer already, I have a smaller entry point for you. I have quantum mantras. I have a 5-minute a day mantras for the next 52 weeks. Start the first, 6 weeks. You'll start shifting, then reach out, because then you'll be ready.
Nice. Now, you said you do mostly Zoom, and you're still working with another coaching company that gives you referrals. And are you still separate? Like, do you work for them, or are they just give you referrals?
How it is I partnered with them, meaning that what I offer for my group is also offered through them. Same thing. It's my container, my company, and they call it I Am Superconscious Coaching. It's just they have a variety of, they have a big base. So literally just launched it a couple of weeks ago there.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk about the business side of things. So it sounds like from your story, you took a course with Christopher Duncan, and then they wanted you to help coach their people, right? So then in that way, you were working for them. You weren't an independent. I mean, you might have been an independent
I was
contractor,
a
but
contractor, yes.
but they were giving you the leads.
Yes,
Were you,
yeah, they were
okay,
giving me, I mean, they invest a $500,000 a year, a month, $500,000 a month in
marketing.
advertising.
Yep. Yep. Okay,
So
so
they're
you
like a
were
$20 a million, a $20 million a year company. So I had to do none of that.
right. Well, that's great. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
Referrals for, and then did they pay? I'm just curious on the structure. Did they pay you, like they got paid and then they paid you to do the coaching, correct?
Yeah, per
Got it.
session. Yes.
Okay. And you did that for 5 years
Yes,
before the
4.5.
pandemic or
Yes.
around the
And I
pandemic?
already did the group. I also did the groups. Yeah. One-on-one
Okay.
and
Cool. And then after 5 years, you went out on your own.
I kind of started on the side in 21 on my own.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Parallelly.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So you're basically leveraging other companies' clients and lists, which is obviously, there was a therapist that one of my, well, she was my client, not for coaching, but for personal training. 2009 was when we met. And I used to work with a lot of her clients. And she's a hustler and she's a great businesswoman, but she never needed to market because she worked with a weight loss center. She specialized in emotional eating. She worked with a weight loss center and then the hospital. So the hospital would fill her room, the weight loss center would fill the room. She'd just come in and teach, and then she would get her clients from the two rooms. She didn't have to do anything outside of that. I mean, she did list herself and she had referrals that came from different people, but it was a really great funnel because she didn't have to spend any time marketing and she was always booked because she was leveraging other people's already existing businesses. And she was, so for anyone listening, it's a very smart thing when you can do it, when you can be a part of a team that's already in place. So it's really smart when you can work with and joint venture with or affiliate with a company that already needs people, and then you don't have to do the marketing. So I think that's brilliant for everyone who's listening for a couple of reasons. One, especially in the space that you're in, in the woo space, which I'm totally a part of, it's a lot harder to market when you don't know who you're talking to or when who is looking for this stuff. It's easier to be in a pool of people. These two companies are also giving you exposure, and then of course, there's referrals, and you do you live in Ojai?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, you were in woo woo country, so like it's different when you're here, and I
I
know you.
say, I say in Ojai, there's a healer on every corner.
Absolutely. 100%. There's like 10 healers in every corner, as well as the biggest hippie population in the entire country live here in Ojai. And anyone who's bohemian or relates to that in any way. So, you're in the right space. And obviously, marketing is also frequency. So you're attracting the right people by what you're doing in the world and how you're showing up in your visibility strategy. But so for those that are listening, so there's two sides to this podcast because it is a women business centered. It's okay, what do you do? What's your story? What are your gifts and talents? And then there's how do you build a business around it? And then how do you grow that business? And what are some tips, tricks, or recommendations you would make for someone else who's following in your footsteps, maybe not doing the same modalities, but they're out there doing that. And I think I just outlined one of them, which was to work with other companies, try to get involved and add something. I just had a meeting before you with a speaker. He has a speaker company and we are podcasters together. We've known each other for several years and we were just sort of doing a little bit of, he wants to start a network or be a part of a network he already has a network, but he wants to start a podcast network. And I have been asked to help podcasters learn how to make money. People are coming, well, how do I do this? How do I make a course? How do I extract a book? And so I said, well, because I don't want to do any of the training. I just want to host a network. I said, great. Well, I know as much as you know that in order for people to continue podcasting, they have to learn how to make money. And if they don't, they're not going to continue doing it. So how about I'll do the training? He's like, great. So, right. It's again, making those relationships with people where it's a win-win for everybody. And so what would be some other ideas you might have for someone who's out there that wants to do similar things to what you or I are doing and how you got started and things that really worked for you?
Thanks. I want to add to that because when I was under contract, um, the contracts changed. At first, it was like take our clients and then sell them your own packages. That was great. Then the contract changed. You can't touch any of our clients, right? And then it got, the last couple of years, it got tighter and tighter. where I felt like I had this huge network and then suddenly my wrists were tied. So watch your contracts with whoever you work with. And then finally, they're just, we're changing our entire structure, no more outside coaches, and you're free to go. So then I was free again. But I was so grateful for the experience and the exposure and the connections I had made. Go with the second company that I am with now. Again, there is no cross, like I'm not going to market on my end to their clients unless they go through their portals. And that works for me, percentage wise, it works for both of us. But just be aware of what agreement you are making and how it affects you to go out and do your work.
Yeah, absolutely. I was working with a cancer doctor a couple years ago, and she had brought me into all that. She trains doctors on the metabolic approach to cancer. And so she brought me in to be interviewed to the doctors about the emotional piece and the components of healing and why that needs to be taken care of and how they were not. Because I thought, well, they can't be doing it. You're teaching them so many other things. There's no way any of them are any good at, minus meditation, journaling, like the kind of like the little things people tell people managing emotions, which to me are fluff and aren't real. They're not real. They don't really get you as far as
They don't reward.
understanding. No, right. But to them it's, oh, how do you just, meditate more and journal? I'm like, yeah, that's not going to help your healing because you didn't change any of the beliefs. You didn't change any of the responses. You didn't change any of the patterns. You didn't change any of the understandings. But what with her, after I'd had a couple of clients from her and from the network, I realized that especially cancer patients can be really hard because vibrationally they've been out of alignment for so long, and to tell them to get it, that their healing is going to happen when you need to get into alignment and feel good. That is not, like, they don't respect that. They've been to doctors, they've taken these protocols, they're doing these things for their body, which all seem really scientifically sound and great. Even like frequency healing things, they'd be like, okay, that would make sense to them. But for me to say, well, we have to work on your happiness level, like you have to learn how to be happy and we have to get your nervous system to feel safe. Oh, that's too simple. That's not going to work. And what I would find, like I had one person she sent to me, and I thought, oh God, this woman is nowhere near ready to take that on. She was very angry about her mom. And so I went back to the doctor and I said,
Oh,
I don't think this person's ready. I don't really think she's very angry. And she goes, oh, okay, well, I thought she might be able to work with you because you say different things. And she goes, but she is batshit crazy. I said, oh, great. You could have told me that before I met with her. I said, but I don't think I want to work with cancer patients. After having several of them who won't, again, it's the momentum is too big of that it has to be medical, that it had like that emotions, what? No, that's too fluffy. That's too woo woo. That can't work. Frequency can't work. And so I decided, so based on your like, watch your contracts, also watch the direction the company's going in. Because I ended up saying to her, you know what? I don't think I want to work with cancer patients because it's only going to be
yeah.
one in like a million at this point that are going to understand what I'm asking them to do, that are going to believe in the healing, unless they're ready to do a medicine journey and really meet their maker and do a near death experience before, unless they're like ready to do that. Anything else, anything talking, anything meditate, like they're not ready. They're so full of fear. So for me, that relationship continued. I'm still a part of it, but I don't do like they've built their own. Oh, we're gonna do the emotions inside in house, which I've heard from other people that's not so good. But because they wanted to bring it in house. So like you said, whether it be the change of the contract, the change of the focus, the change of, and is it, even though it might sound like a really good idea, like I was going to be working with hundreds and hundreds of cancer doctors and all of their patients, but I could not get in alignment with where they're meeting me, and here's where you have to be in order for us to like make this be effective. And with the resistance and the negativity and the fear and all of that, the resistance to it, it just wasn't going to work out. It wasn't the right path. So sometimes that changes too, that the people that you start working with, that the people who are in charge may think it's a great idea, but the kind of clients they bring in might be really victimized or might be really, in
Yeah.
that space.
The client has to want it. And what I found is I really 100% believe that we our whole body, our bodies can heal itself. Like, what is to heal? I understand. Or what is to heal? I think in Greek is to become whole, or that's kind of what it means. I think that there is a healthy, whole version of ourselves that exists, and I see all my clients in that, in their greatness, in their wholeness, and they have the ability to step into that with their mindset, with their action, but to release the patterns. So what I love to explain to clients, because I do have clients that are dealing with cancer, and what I always take them back to the actual science of psychoneuroimmunology, which is the suppressed, repressed emotions from childhood will confuse, let's just say a simple term, your immune system, who will not be able to protect you from invaders or from, autoimmune or cancer cells. And when you create emotional health at the core level, knowing, like you said, you're safe, your nervous system, all that. I do it through the superconscious, like I just tap in to the energy field and I say, oh, shift that, shift that, shift that, shift that, shift that original belief, shift that event, shift that trauma. And that's how I work. But so it's effortless for the client as long as they show up and they allow themselves to integrate it in their daily life and stop referring back to their old story, to realize that they have a choice to tell the old story or the new story of who they're becoming and how they want to show up, because everything is frequency. So I love to incorporate science as well into this, and PEMF and RIFE. Well, PEMF is widely studied by NASA, right? RIFE, not so much. I mean, it was studied, but it's been kind of hidden. It was wildly studied in the 30s, I believe, or 20s and 30s by hospitals,
There's data on all of
universities.
it. Yeah, there is data on all of it. Yeah, and the psychoneuroimmunology. I guess if people are attracted to, I was being referred by doctors. When people are finding you, they're coming in a different frequency because they're searching for something different,
Yeah.
right? For me, it was a different level of frequency who people who wouldn't necessarily be open to or believe that the things that you would do would work. And that was the resistance that I dealt with, that I said, this is not the right path. This is not the right kind of people for me. It doesn't mean that, and I've had cancer patients and I've been able to show them through blood work and all of their numbers, how nothing but emotional expression can change their entire physiology. But there again, it's not the average person's having chemo, the average person's has, they're not looking
Yeah.
for, this is outside of their comfort zone of believability. But the ones that you're probably attracting are searching for something that what you're doing.
Yeah, we're not here to convince anyone, are we? Right?
No.
That's not who, I mean, there's plenty of people, more and more people who want energy work and alternative, and more people want it. It is the future. Frequency is the future. Energy is the future. It's just more and more people are catching on. Yes, it is a norm for us in Ojai, but you'd be surprised where people come to me from. California? No. Florida, Texas, those are huge hubs. Canada, Australia, like California and the West Coast? No. New York? No. It's so interesting where people are seeking this more. You know who's seeking it more? Maha people and people who've always been into energy.
Yeah. Well,
So it's a shift, new shift, new.
absolutely. No, and I think it's an exciting time. I mean, I know you talk about epigenetics. I teach about epigenetics. I've done a podcast on literally everything we've talked about. So, in terms of education, so I'm attracting people also at that level, but through that portal. So the podcast becomes the conductor of the frequency that I get to put out there, versus when I was going through a doctor. and who's coming to her and the doctors that she's working with and the patients that they're getting, we're on different frequencies. And so I understood that and I let that go. And I guess that's kind of the message I have for anyone who's listening about partnerships that you have with people, whether it be that you're getting referrals directly from them, or they want to pull you in house, or they want to do some kind of partnership. It's sometimes it might like be really, really a good idea. Oh, this is so, there's going to be so much here. And then it's somewhere you go, oh, maybe this isn't as in alignment as I thought it was for whatever reason. And then you pivot, you shift, you change the contract, you change the deal. You
Yeah.
figure out a way that serves you best and trust the process that your business is going to hit. As long as you have visibility and some way to connect with people in the world, of course. If you're hiding in your house, no one's going to find you. No one's coming to knock on your door to say, hey, will you help me? You have to be out and visible in the world through whatever interviews and podcasts, or be connected to a company that's already looking for people to help and support. So it sounds like you've got a really, yeah.
As you're talking, I'm like, huh, what does she think about Substack? What does she think about getting a publicist? Because I'm 100% confident in my abilities, right? I know that can help people, but who love this type of modality. But the question is, I just signed up for Substack. That's my first one. And I am looking to I am wanting a publicist for my container, right? That includes everything for everyone who is willing to show up. What do you think of that? What are some suggestions? If you
Well, as someone who's had a publicist, and but I've had publicists for things like book launches, and again, I would, depending on what your goals are, it really depends on your goal. If your goal, for me, having a publicist got me TV spots that helped a book launch, or yeah, it's like something that is coming up while you can absolutely always have a publicist who is trying to find whatever is going on in the world, and then how you can help and get you TV, or and even when you get TV, because one of my good friends, she's a podcaster and she's on television all the time, but I'll tell you, she never gets to talk about, like, it looks really good, but it doesn't necessarily always bring her clients immediately. Now, her topic is really specific. It's about dating and dating after 40. And so she does get clients from that, but really she gets her clients from her podcast. She gets her clients from putting herself out there on social media, from hosting her flirting events, or her challenges, or her makeovers. Like, that's how she gets her word out there. So I think for each different business, it's going to be a different application of a visibility strategy. For me, while I have a Substack, I haven't put anything written on there. I only have it as an RSS feed for my podcast. I believe the platform is mostly written, but I do know people have their podcasts on there. I will maybe get to the point where I'll do something better with it and take the transcript and put it up there along with the podcast. But it seems like a lot of work. Not that it won't be worth it. But for me, what I really love about how I chose podcasting was because I was never going to blog. I need something that can create the intimacy that I get. So right now, because even though we're on video and at some point people are going to see the video, first people are going to hear us. They're going to hear us. And guess what? We're in their ears. You can't get any more intimate than getting in their ears. And so not only can they hear the words, but they're feeling our frequency. And I don't believe, even though words can emanate off a page, there's no frequency in a word except the frequency that you're giving it. They can't feel your transference of energy. Maybe in the way that you say it, there can be some in there. But when on a podcast or on a video, they can either see or feel you. And for me, podcasting is where they're literally feeling you. Like, in the first 5 seconds, someone is going to click into whether or not you're for them or not, or that your energy is either inviting or invigorating or triggering, or whatever's happening for them. So you choose the modality that you're going to commit to that works for you, with a strategy of understanding how it's going to affect you and what to do with that. Because some people can go on TV all day long and they'll have nobody, or do TikTok or do Facebook or do something and have all these followers and have nobody on an email list. And so the trickle effect of how many people become actual clients is a strategy. And so in terms of PR, I would say, have a strategy first, figure out what you want from it, what your budget is, how long you can last having it, and can you get some of that on your own? Can you get some of it on your own or save the time for, like, there's another podcaster who was actually my coach. He's a huge, very successful podcaster. I mean, millions and millions of downloads an episode. Okay. We're talking about, he's the real deal. But JLD, he charges every guest to be on his show. And I just saw him again at Podfest when I was speaking there in Orlando a couple weeks ago. And he did lower the price. It used to be 5 grand that he would charge per episode. Now he's charging 3,500. And I was thinking to myself, okay, well, I know he's got millions of listeners every day, and they probably take action because he's a Sag and he's a fiery guy. And I thought I would do that. And I was thinking, okay, well, I don't want to do that until I'm ready to until I have a really good funnel in place to take advantage of that exposure. And then this morning on the hike, I said to Doug, my fiance, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it when I do the book launch. That would be the best use of it. I'll have a really good lead magnet as well as selling the book because I'm gunning for a New York Times bestseller. So that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to spend the money when it has the biggest impact for me as a business, and I have multiple touch points of what I can get from it. I can get people on my list, I can get people listening to my podcast, and hopefully I'll get people buying the book. And that will be the trifecta of spending that money for that appearance.
Well, I'll say congratulations to all that's upcoming, and
Thanks.
that makes total sense. If you're going to invest in something like that, it's, do you have a launch? So I was thinking of doing it because of my app launch. I want to show you how it's different. It rewires your brain. It's layered. It's 5 minutes, so it works on the unconscious, conscious, and superconscious. All three plus frequencies. Actually, I want to patch in some frequencies if I could. Let's see if
Sure.
This is called. It also has a light. I can turn on the light. It works whether or not you have a light on. So, oh no, it's off. It's unplugged. But the light does work when you plug it in. But the frequencies, I don't know if you can hear them.
Yep, I can hear them.
Are they okay or are they uncomfortable?
They're okay. They're okay for me.
Okay. Therefore, they must be okay for listeners.
Hopefully.
So this is called Inner Peace and Joy. So
is it like a binaural beat? It kind of sounds like it might be like a binaural beat.
It's kind of like a binaural beat, but it's binaural beats is left, right, left, right.
Yep.
Okay. But these PEMF, they're many. It's like a whole orchestra of frequencies. And I highly believe in quantum entanglement. So you work through in not just hearing them, but receiving them. So if someone is just going to choose to receive the frequencies in their full energy, scalar energy power, they can also experience the benefit. So this is how I do it, is I do my energy work on top of that. And that's how I layered the app. So that's what I would like, some sort of boost in, not ads, but like in someone who's a publicist who just says, hey, I've tried this. It made me feel so much better. I believe in it. Now I want to help you tell the world about it.
Well, so let me say two things about that. And one, we can't really cover on the show. But in terms of like launching, I'm a big fan. So I don't know if you were aware when we launched West Coast Wind Rising, like I put it together like a launch. So the launch became that there were 19 episodes that we led with. There were 18 or 17 or 18 other people who were sharing about it. We all went on social media. I asked people to email to their lists. We did a giveaway. We made we had a 3-hour live in the Facebook group where people came in every 15 minutes. So we kicked up some noise. We created some momentum. Right. And so it hit a couple different levels of what I wanted to do, because I'm a big fan of, if you're going to launch something, like do it right, like make a commotion, make a party, put it out there, put it out into the world. But sometimes you don't have to spend a lot of money necessarily on a publicist to do that. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying check with some publicists and see what they think they could do for you. Of course, they're probably going to tell you they can do a lot of things. And I do have a couple referrals if you want. But there's also things you can do on your own. So there's things you can do on your own that can kick up as much noise, which might end up working out better for you anyway, because you have people locally or some of your clients, you could go to your clients and ask them who knows a publicist or have worked with someone. How many of you on my list are a publicist? In fact, I'm thinking of one right now that's, I'm sure there's somebody here in Ojai, but even if not, there's someone in Redondo Beach that I just met who has a podcast. So anyway, there's lots of referrals to be had, but you can also do your own launch. You don't have to do publicity and pay for that. You could get together a really amazing group of people who could support that. And so anyway, but that's my only pitch for, I'm a big fan of launch. When you do anything, book, podcast, new offering, an app, like kick it up, but it has to be planned like an online party and an offline party, and then have very clear goals of why you're doing it and what you expect to get from it. And that you could put together for a fraction of the cost of something like publicity. And then if you want to add publicity to it, do that too. But
I
be
love that.
strategic and don't just throw money away.
No, that is so smart. It's like you're building momentum and you're using that momentum in so many different ways to have visibility
Yep.
from so many different exposure
Hmm.
from, yeah, different touch points and
And one last thing I'll say about that. Because you're just starting to launch it, if you already have client testimonials, that would help, like having a pitch
fun.
deck, having, okay, because that way that gives them, I'm not just launching it. I don't have like, here are the 10 testimonials to back up that I'm doing this so that they can talk about something. And if it's at all in alignment with, one more thing, sorry, I've done a whole PR. I've had PR for years and I work with PR people and I have a PR course for entrepreneurs. But if you line it up with like getting your talking points for whatever's going on in the world, that's when people want, that's when you're going to get PR. When you're going to get television interviews, or is when whatever you can offer is going to help whatever's going on in the world right now. All right. So that, but you got to stay on top of that. You're pitching and someone's pitching for you. Here's the solution to this current problem we're having. And
Yeah,
then you become the solution.
got it. Yeah, at any time, at anywhere, it's the solution, right? We just,
Right, but you want to dial into what's everybody talking about right
yeah,
now, and what
right.
everyone's talking about right now is politics. So you might want to politics and getting angry and being afraid, and then people's nervous systems, and anyway, things
Hmm.
like that. So, all right, let's go back to let's just finish us up. I want to make sure everyone understands where to find you and how to work with you, and anything else that they can do to support you. So let's talk about your website, your social media, and then your offerings.
Oh, lovely. Lately I've been more of a TikToker just because people love frequencies over there. They embrace it. They embrace energy work on TikTok. So I like that. I have a Facebook mostly. TikTok and Facebook is kind of where I spend my time. It's basically Galit Reuben, at Galit Reuben, or Quantum Mantras is also searchable. And I am super conscious. But really, it's going to be in the app, Quantum Mantras. That's the single starting point where, in layers of 5 minutes a day, I based it on Maslow's hierarchy. How can people say, oh, I want abundance, I want to be happy, I want to be free, I want to have time, I want to live my dreams, but you don't feel safe. So we got to start at the root. We got to start at I am safe. But there is a sample mantra there. Right now, I think it's live in Google, not yet Apple. But there is we start with a sample. You get a free week. I am gratitude. Because gratitude begets more gratitude. So it's a happy medium of to start. I don't think people will go, oh yeah, I want to try a week of I am safe. Right. So I gave him I am gratitude, and then I am present, and then we'll go into I am safe, and we build on up all the way to enlightenment. But you can't bypass your core unsafe wounds. So 5 minutes a day, layers, frequencies, suggestions to your unconscious, conscious through your superconscious. It's very powerful, and I'm proud of it. And I took 20 founding members through it, and the results were massive. And that's why I say I have testimonials. So
Yeah,
I'm
no,
okay
that's
with that.
awesome. It's amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So I am superconscious.com and Quantum Mantras on your app store, and double check if you in the future, I guess you'll let people know when you're on Apple. Follow her on Facebook and on TikTok. And thank you, Galit, for being on the show today. I appreciate both your energy and your wisdom and your sharing your story for others to inspire them both personally and professionally.
Thank you. I really thank your insights and your wealth of knowledge, and you understand this work. You live it, and it's perfect. I don't know. I do everything intuitively, like where I'm guided. And as soon as I saw your email a long time ago, I was guided to respond, but the timing was wait. So here we are.
Here we are. All right. So check out our show notes for all the information. And I hope to see you live sometime locally in a group meeting.
It's gonna happen super soon, like next month.
Great. All right. Thanks, Galit.
Thanks, JJ.